The princess met a human and everything changed. Part 1. The encounter. Princess Lyra stood behind the massive crystal viewing wall, her purple scales catching the bright lights of the holding chamber. She had never seen anything like the creature. Sitting calmly on the metal bench below, the being was small, maybe 6 feet tall, with smooth pink skin that looked soft and weak. No armor plating covered his body. No energy fields glowed around him. He just sat there, completely still, like he was waiting for something. The other Altarians in the royal court whispered among themselves. They pointed at the strange being and laughed. Some made jokes about how easy it would be to crush such a weak creature. Princess Lyra did not laugh. Something about this being made her curious in a way she could not explain. "What do we know about this creature?" she asked Commander Rex, the head of her father's military guard. Commander Rex looked at his datapad. "Very little, Your Highness. His ship crashed on Moonbase 7 3 days ago. The ship was small and looked very old. Our engineers say the technology is basic, maybe hundreds of years behind ours. Did he fight when you captured him?" "No, Your Highness. That is the strange part. When our soldiers surrounded him, he just put his hands up and said he wanted to talk. He spoke our language perfectly." Princess Lyra raised one eyebrow. This was unusual. Most species they encountered either fought back or ran away in fear. This creature had done neither. Has he said anything else? "He says his name is Jake, and he comes from a planet called Earth. He claims he is an explorer looking for other intelligent life in the galaxy. He wants to make friends with us." "Commander?" Rex laughed. "Can you believe it? He wants to make friends." The princess watched as Jake stood up and walked to the clear wall of his cell. He could not see her through the one-way crystal, but he seemed to be looking right at her. His eyes were brown and calm. There was no fear in them at all. "Bring him to the main court," Princess Lyra said. "Your Highness, that might not be safe. We do not know what tricks this creature might have." Princess Lyra turned to look at Commander Rex. Her bioelectric field began to glow slightly, showing her authority. "Look at him, Rex. What tricks could he possibly have? He has no natural weapons, no armor, no energy projection abilities. Is probably the weakest creature we have ever captured." Commander Rex bowed his head. "As you wish, Your Highness." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the center of the great court chamber. The room was huge, with walls that reached up 50 feet high. Giant crystals hung from the ceiling, filling the space with blue and purple light. Hundreds of Altarian nobles sat in curved rows around the chamber floor. They were all much larger than Jake, their purple scales gleaming and their bioelectric fields creating small lightning shows around their bodies. Emperor Drax sat on his massive throne at the front of the chamber. He was the largest Altarian in the room, over 9 feet tall, with scales that had turned almost black with age. His bioelectric field was so powerful that small bolts of energy danced between his fingers. Jake stood in the center of it all, looking tiny and fragile, but he did not seem afraid. He looked around the room with what appeared to be wonder and curiosity. "So," Emperor Drax said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "you are the creature from the crashed ship." "Yes, Your Majesty," Jake said, bowing. "Slightly. My name is Jake Morrison. I come from a planet called Earth. I want to thank you for not killing me when your soldiers found me." Several Altarians laughed at this. The idea that they might show mercy to such a weak creature seemed funny to them. "You speak our language well," the Emperor said. "How is this possible? I've spent 3 months learning it during my journey too." "Your system," Jake replied. "My ship's computer had recordings of your radio transmissions. I studied them every day." Princess Lyra leaned forward in her seat. 3 months alone in space, learning a completely new language. That showed dedication. And intelligence. "Why did you come here?" Emperor Drax asked. "To meet you," Jake said simply. "My people have always wondered if we were alone in the universe. When we discovered your radio signals, we knew we were not. I volunteered to make the journey to see if we could become friends." The court erupted in laughter. The idea of friendship with such a weak species was ridiculous to them. But Princess Lyra noticed that Jake did not seem embarrassed or angry. He just waited for the laughter to stop. "Friends," Emperor Drax said, still chuckling. "Little creature, do you understand what we are? We are the Altarian Empire. We have conquered 17 star systems. We are warriors. We take what we want and destroy what opposes us. What could we possibly want from weaklings like you?" "I understand you are powerful," Jake said. "Your technology is impressive. Your people are strong. But maybe there are things my people could offer in return for friendship." "Like what?" Commander Rex called out from his position near the throne.
Ouch.
Jake said. "Different ways of thinking about problems. My people have learned to survive and grow, even though we are not the strongest or fastest creatures on our planet. We have had to be creative." Princess Lyra found herself more interested by the minute. This human showed no fear, even surrounded by beings who could kill him with a thought. He spoke of weakness as if it were not shameful. Strange of all, he seemed genuinely interested in making friends with people who were clearly planning to kill him. "Enough of this foolishness," Emperor Drax said, his bioelectric field flaring brighter. "This creature is obviously a spy sent to study our weaknesses. We will execute him tomorrow as an example to any other species that might think to challenge us." "Wait," Princess Lyra said, standing up from her seat. The entire court turned to look at her. "Father, may I make a request?" The Emperor looked at his daughter with surprise. Princess Lyra rarely spoke during court sessions. "What is it, my child?" "I would like to study this creature before he is executed. He is unlike anything we have encountered before. Perhaps we can learn something useful about his species before we destroy him." The Emperor considered this. "Very well. You have 3 days to study the creature, then he dies." Princess Lyra bowed to her father. "Thank you, Your Majesty." As the guards moved to take Jake back to his cell, he looked up at Princess Lyra and smiled. It was a strange expression, showing his small white teeth. She had never seen anything like it before. "Thank you, Princess," he said, as the guards led him away. Princess Lyra watched him go, her mind full of questions. This human was not like anything in her experience. He was weak, yet unafraid. He was small, yet dignified. He was facing death, yet he smiled. For the first time in her life, Princess Lyra was curious about weakness. The princess met a human and everything changed, Part 2. Understanding the Impossible Princess. Lyra entered the research facility early the next morning. The building was quiet, with only a few scientists working in the distant labs. She walked down the long corridor toward the special holding room where Jake was being kept. Her footsteps echoed on the metal floor. The guard at the door bowed when he saw her. "Good morning, Your Highness." "The creature has been awake for 2 hours. He asked for something to write with. Did you give it to him?" "No, Your Highness. We're not sure if it was safe." Princess Lyra looked through the observation window. Jake sat at a small table looking at the walls of his room. He seemed to be studying the air circulation system near the ceiling. "Give him a writing pad and stylus," she ordered. "I want to see what he does with them." She entered the room a few minutes later. Jake stood up when he saw her, which surprised her. Most prisoners either cowered in fear or showed defiance. Jake simply showed respect. "Good morning, Princess Lyra," he said. "Thank you for the writing materials. What do you plan to do with them?" "I want to understand how your air system works," Jake said, pointing to the vents above. "The design is very clever. It's much better than what we use on Earth." Princess Lyra had not expected this answer. "You are facing execution in 2 days, and you want to study our ventilation?" Jake smiled that strange expression again. "I am curious about everything. If these are my last days, I want to learn as much as possible." The princess sat down across from him at the table. "Tell me about your planet. What is Earth like?" "It is beautiful," Jake said, his eyes lighting up. "We have blue oceans and green forests. Many different types of animals live there. Some are much stronger than humans. Stronger than you. How do you survive?" "We use our minds," Jake said, "and we work together. Humans are not the fastest or strongest creatures on Earth, but we learn to make tools and cooperate with each other." Princess Lyra leaned forward. This was interesting. "What kind of tools?" Jake picked up the stylus and began drawing on the pad. Simple things at first: sharp rocks to cut meat, sticks to reach high places, fire to cook food and stay warm. That sounds very primitive. It was thousands of years ago. We kept improving. We learned to grow our own food instead of just hunting. We built cities. We developed science and medicine. Jake continued drawing. The most important thing was that we shared our knowledge. When one human learned something new, he taught it to others. The princess studied Jake's drawing. It showed humans working together to build something large and complex. Each person was doing a different job, but they were all helping each other. On Alteria, the strong take what they want, she said. The weak serve the strong. That is the natural order. Maybe for your species, Jake said. But humans learned something different. We discovered that everyone is good at something. Even weak people can have good ideas. When we work together, we can do things that none of us could do alone. Princess Lyra had never heard such ideas before. In Alterian society, power came from individual strength and the ability to dominate others. The idea of cooperation seemed strange and inefficient. "Show me," she said. Jake looked around the room. "I need some basic materials. Metal scraps, maybe some wire, and something to hold water." "What are you going to do? Build something useful." Princess Lyra left the room and returned an hour later with a box of materials from the maintenance department. Jake spread them out on the table and began sorting through them. "Your people must drink water," he said, picking up a piece of curved metal. "Of course. How do you purify it?" "We have machines that filter out impurities and kill harmful organisms. The process is very advanced." Jake nodded and began bending the metal piece. "I am sure it is. But sometimes simple solutions work just as well." For the next 3 hours, Princess Lyra watched Jake work. He did not have any special tools, just his hands and basic intelligence. But slowly a device began to take shape. He connected pieces of metal with wire, created small channels for water to flow through, and built what looked like a filtering system. "I do not understand how this could work," the princess said. "It looks too simple." "Simple can be good," Jake replied, making a final adjustment. "Could you have someone bring us some dirty water to test this?" Princess Lyra called for a container of water from the waste treatment facility. It was brown and smelled terrible. She watched as Jake poured it into the top of his device. The water flowed down through several layers of metal mesh and sand that Jake had arranged inside. At the bottom, clean water dripped out into a clean container. Princess Lyra could not believe her eyes. "How is this possible?" she asked. "Physics," Jake said. "Gravity pulls the water down. The sand and metal catch the dirt and bacteria. Design forces the water to move slowly, so there is time for the cleaning to work." Princess Lyra picked up the clean water and examined it. It looked perfect. She called for a scientist to test it. 20 minutes later, the scientist returned with surprising results. "Your Highness, this water is cleaner than what our advanced purification systems produce, and this device used no electricity or complex technology." The princess stared at Jake with new understanding. "You built this with scraps in 3 hours. Our best engineers spent years developing our water purification systems. Your engineers were probably trying to make something very advanced," Jake said. "Sometimes the best solution is the simple one. Humans learned this because we had to. We did not have advanced technology for most of our history, so we had to be creative with basic materials." "But you are so weak," Princess Lyra said, still trying to understand. "How could weak creatures develop better solutions than strong ones?" Jake sat back in his chair. "Maybe being weak forced us to think differently. When you cannot just take what you want by force, you have to find other ways. You have to be smart. You have to cooperate. You have to solve problems." Princess Lyra spent the rest of the day asking Jake questions about human history and society. She learned about wars that humans had won not through strength, but through better strategy and technology. She heard about scientific discoveries made by humans, who were considered weak or unimportant by their societies. Most shocking of all, she learned that humans had survived disasters that would have destroyed most species. Ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and wars had all failed to wipe out humanity. Each time they had adapted and found ways to continue. As the day ended, Princess Lyra realized that everything she thought she knew about strength and weakness might be wrong. This small, soft creature had shown her that power came in form she had never considered. Jake was weak in body, but strong in mind, and somehow that made him more dangerous than any warrior she had ever met. The princess met a human and everything changed. Part 3. The Test of Character Princess. Lyra woke up to urgent knocking on her door. The sun had not yet risen, but her personal guard stood outside with a worried expression on his face. "Your Highness, you must come quickly. There has been a development with the human prisoner." The princess dressed quickly and followed the guard through the palace corridors. They walked toward the throne room, where she could already hear voices arguing loudly. "What is happening?" she asked. "Lord Victor has called for an emergency court session. He claims the human has contaminated your mind with dangerous ideas." Princess Lyra felt a cold fear in her stomach. Lord Victor was her father's brother and the leader of the military faction in court. He had always wanted more power and often challenged her father's decisions. When they entered the throne room, she saw that half the court had already gathered. Lord Victor stood near the throne, speaking to Emperor Drax in urgent whispers. Nobles sat in small groups, all talking at once. "Ah, my daughter," Emperor Drax said when he saw her. "Lord Victor has brought serious concerns to my attention." Lord Victor stepped forward. He was almost as large as the Emperor, with battle scars covering his dark purple scales. His bioelectric field crackled with anger. "Your Highness," he said, bowing slightly to Princess Lyra, "I have been watching your interactions with the human creature. You have spent too much time with it. I fear it has poisoned your mind with its weak philosophies." "That is not true," Princess Lyra said. "Been studying the creature as my father requested. I have learned valuable information about its species." "Yes, and what have you learned?" Lord Victor asked, his voice growing louder. "That weakness is somehow better than strength. That cooperation is more important than dominance. These are dangerous ideas that could destroy our empire." Several nobles nodded in agreement. Princess Lyra looked around the room and realized that many of the court members were frightened by the changes they had seen in her. "The human has shown me different ways of thinking about problems," she said carefully. "Knowledge is never dangerous. Knowledge of weakness is very dangerous," Lord Victor replied. "It makes us soft, makes us question the natural order that has made us strong." Emperor Drax raised his hand for silence. "What do you propose, brother?" "The human must face the trial of strength immediately. If it survives, it can live. It dies, we will know that its ideas were false and weak." The trial of strength was an ancient Alterian tradition. Any being accused of challenging their society could demand trial by combat. Most prisoners chose quick execution instead, because no non-Alterian had ever survived the trial. "Father, this is not fair," Princess Lyra said. "The human has no natural weapons or defenses. It would be murder, not justice." "The trial is the law," Lord Victor said. "Unless the princess believes that her new friend is too weak to defend its own ideas." Princess Lyra realized this was a trap. If she agreed the human was too weak for trial, she would be admitting that human ideas were worthless. If she supported the trial, Jake would almost certainly die. "Very well," Emperor Drax said. "The human will face the trial of strength at noon today. Lord Victor, choose your champion." "I will fight the creature myself," Lord Victor said with a cruel smile. "No," said a voice from the back of the room. "I will be the champion." Everyone turned to see Brutus walking forward. He was the largest Alterian in the Empire, over 10 feet tall, with scales so thick they looked like armor. His bioelectric field was so powerful that it lit up the entire area around him. He was the court's official executioner and had never lost a fight. "Brutus," Emperor Drax said, "the human is very small. It would not be much of a fight." "Exactly," Brutus said. "It'll be quick and final." No one will be able to say we did not give the creature a fair chance. Princess Lyra felt sick. Jake had no chance against Brutus. The executioner could kill him with a single blast of bioelectricity. When do we tell the human about the trial? She asked. Now, Lord Victor said. I want to see how brave it really is. He brought Jake to the throne room in chains. He looked small and fragile, surrounded by so many large Alterians. But when Emperor Drax explained the trial, Jake just nodded calmly. I understand, he said. When do we fight? You are not afraid? Brutus asked, surprised. I am terrified, Jake said honestly. But fear does not change what must be done. Could refuse the trial and accept quick execution instead, Princess Lyra said quietly. Jake looked at her with those calm brown eyes. Your Highness, you have been kind to me. You have listened to my ideas about cooperation and peaceful problem-solving. If I run away from this challenge, I would be proving that those ideas are worthless. But you cannot win, she whispered. Brutus will kill you, Ibby, Jake said. But maybe there is another way to win that does not involve killing. Lord Victor laughed. Listen to this creature talk about winning without fighting. This is exactly the kind of dangerous thinking that must be stopped. Take the human back to his cell, Emperor Drax ordered. Let him prepare for the trial. At noon, we will see if human ideas can survive Alterian strength. As the guards led Jake away, he turned back to Princess Lyra. Your Highness, could you do me one favor? What is it? Could you have someone bring me a few pieces of metal wire and a small hammer? I want to make something before the trial, Lord. Victor snorted. The creature wants to make weapons. How pathetic. Grant his request, Emperor Drax said. Let him have his little tools. They will not help him against Brutus. Princess Lyra spent the morning in her chambers, unable to eat or focus on anything. She had grown to respect Jake over the past 2 days. He had shown her new ways of thinking that challenged everything she had been taught. Now he was going to die because of her curiosity. At noon, the entire court gathered in the great arena. The circular fighting pit was surrounded by thousands of seats, all filled with Alterians eager to watch the execution. Princess Lyra sat in the royal box next to her father, trying not to show her emotions. Brutus entered the arena first, his massive form causing the crowd to cheer. His bioelectric field was so bright it hurt to look at directly. He carried no weapons because he needed none. His natural abilities were more than enough to kill any opponent. Then Jake entered the arena. He looked impossibly small compared to Brutus. In his hands he carried a small metal object that he had made from the wire and hammer. It looked like a simple tool, nothing that could possibly threaten the giant Alterian. Begin? Emperor Drax called out. Brutus immediately launched a bolt of bioelectricity at Jake. The human dove to the side, barely avoiding the attack. The energy blast hit the arena wall and left a smoking crater. Fight back, human. Ow. Brutus roared, charging forward. But Jake did not fight back. He ran. The crowd began to laugh and jeer as Jake ran in circles around the arena, always just ahead of Brutus's attacks. The giant Alterian was getting frustrated and angry, which made his attacks more powerful but less accurate. Is this your great warrior? Lord Victor shouted. He runs like a coward. But Princess Lyra was watching more carefully. Jake was not just running randomly. He was leading Brutus in a specific pattern, staying just close enough to keep the giant chasing him. After 5 minutes of this, Jake suddenly stopped running. He stood in the center of the arena and began to speak in a loud, clear voice that carried to every seat in the stadium. The princess met a human and everything changed. Part 4. The Revelation. Jake stood in the center of the arena and raised his voice so everyone could hear him. People of Alteria, I want to tell you about strength. The crowd grew quiet, curious about what the small human would say before his death. You believe that strength comes from the ability to destroy, Jake continued. You think power means making others fear you? But I have seen a different kind of strength. Brutus stopped his attack, confused by Jake's behavior. Stop talking and fight me, coward. I will not fight you, Jake said calmly, because fighting you would prove nothing except that you can kill me. Everyone already knows that. Princess Lyra leaned forward in her seat. What was Jake trying to do? Then you admit you were weak. Lord Victor called out from the royal box.
Yes.
Jake said, surprising everyone. I am weak. I cannot generate bioelectricity like you. I have no natural armor. I cannot lift heavy objects or run very fast. By your standards, I am completely powerless. The crowd began to laugh again, but Jake continued speaking. But weakness taught my people something that strength never could. It taught us to think. It taught us to work together. It taught us to find solutions that the strong never see. Jake held up the small metal device he had made. This morning, I made this simple tool from scraps. It does not look like much, but it represents something important. What is it? Someone in the crowd yelled. It is a conductor, Jake said. It can direct electrical energy in new ways. Brutus grew impatient. Enough talking. He charged at Jake with his bioelectric field blazing. Jake did not run this time. As Brutus reached him, Jake held up his metal conductor and touched it too. The giant's outstretched hand. Something amazing happened. Instead of Jake being killed by the electrical blast, the energy flowed through his conductor and spread out in all directions. The arena filled with beautiful patterns of light that danced across the walls and ceiling like living art. The crowd gasped in wonder. They had never seen bioelectricity used this way before. Instead of destroying, it was creating something beautiful. Brutus stopped his attack, staring at the light show in confusion. What? What did you do? I redirected your energy, Jake said. I did not fight it or try to stop it. I just gave it a new path to follow. Nice. The lights continued to dance for several more seconds before fading away. The entire arena was silent. Jake turned to address the crowd again. This is what weakness taught my people. When you cannot overpower your problems, you must find creative solutions. You must work with the forces around you instead of just trying to smash them. Princess Lyra felt her heart racing. Jake had not won the trial by defeating Brutus. Had won by showing that victory did not always require violence. Possible, Lord Victor said, standing up in the royal box. This is some kind of trick. No trick, Jake replied. Just physics. Brutus, would you try your attack again? The giant Alterian looked uncertain. I do not understand what happened. You created energy, and I gave it direction, Jake explained. Together, we made something beautiful instead of something destructive. This is what cooperation can do. Brutus tried his attack again, and again Jake's conductor created patterns of light. This time, Jake moved the device in different ways, making the lights form shapes and colors that told a story. The crowd watched in amazement as the light show continued. Some people began to stand up, trying to get a better view of the incredible display. Emperor Drax stood up from his throne. Stop this, he commanded. This is not how the trial works. Father Princess Lyra said, also standing. Look around you. Look at what Jake has done. The Emperor looked at his people, the first time in the history of the trial of strength. The crowd was not calling for blood. They were not cheering for violence. Instead, they were watching in wonder as a weak creature and their strongest warrior created art together. This changes nothing, Lord Victor said angrily. Human has not defeated Brutus in combat. He's just performed some clever tricks. You are right, Jake said, letting the lights fade away. I have not defeated anyone. That was never my goal. He walked to the center of the arena and sat down on the ground. I came here to show you something different. I wanted to prove that there are other ways to be strong. Brutus looked down at the small human sitting peacefully at his feet. I could kill you right now, he said. Yes, you could, Jake agreed. But what would that prove? That you are stronger than me? Everyone already knows that. Or would it prove that your only solution to new ideas is violence? The giant Alterian stared at Jake for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he sat down next to him. I have been fighting for 30 years, Brutus said slowly. I have killed hundreds of enemies, but I have never made anything beautiful before. The crowd began to whisper among themselves. Their greatest warrior was sitting peacefully with a creature he was supposed to execute. Princess Lyra looked around the arena and realized that something fundamental had changed. The Alterians were not laughing at Jake anymore. They were thinking about what he had said. This is madness, Lord Victor declared. The human has infected our greatest warrior with his weakness. This proves how dangerous these ideas are. But Emperor Drax was studying the scene in the arena with thoughtful eyes. His daughter could see that he was troubled by what he had witnessed. Trial is over, the Emperor announced. But I must think about what this means. Father, what is your judgment? Princess Lyra asked. I do not know, he admitted. The human did not win by our laws, but he did not lose either. He has done something that I have never seen before. Jake stood up from the arena floor and looked toward the royal box. Your Majesty, may I ask you a question? Speak. What made your empire strong? Is it just the ability to destroy your enemies? Emperor Drax considered this. He became strong by conquering other species and taking their resources. And what resources did you take? Territory, technology, slaves? Jake nodded. So your strength came not just from your own abilities, but from the knowledge and tools you took from others. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that cooperation might be more powerful than conquest. Instead of taking what others have created, imagine what you could accomplish if you worked together with them. Princess Lyra watched her father's face as he processed Jake's words. She could see that the human had planted a seed of doubt in the Emperor's mind. Guards, Emperor Drax said finally, return the human to his cell. I need time to think about this trial. As Jake was led away, he looked up at Princess Lyra one more time. Thank you for listening, he said. Sometimes that is all it takes to change everything. The princess realized that Jake was right. In just 3 days, he had changed how she thought about strength, cooperation, and the nature of power itself. The princess met a human and everything changed, Part 5. Everything changes. Princess Lyra could not sleep that night. She kept thinking about Jake's words in the arena and the look on her father's face when the human had questioned everything their empire stood for. She walked to her window and stared out at the stars, wondering if there were other species out there who thought differently about strength and power. Early the next morning, she went to see Jake in his cell. The guards let her in without question. They had grown used to her daily visits over the past few days. Jake was sitting at his small table, drawing something on his writing pad. He looked up and smiled when she entered. Good morning, Princess. I was hoping you would come. Jake, what you did yesterday was incredible, but I am worried about what will happen next. My father is very confused, and Lord Victor is angrier than ever. Jake set down his stylus. Change is never easy, especially for those in power. Your father has built his entire life around one way of thinking. It is frightening to consider that there might be other ways. Princess Lyra sat down. Across from him, tell me the truth, Jake. Are you really just an explorer looking for friendship? Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked directly into her eyes. Princess, can I trust you with something important? Yes, I am an explorer, but I am not alone. My people have been watching your empire for many years. We know about your conquests and your technology. Princess Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. You are spies? Not spies. Exactly. We are ... evaluators. My people want to know if your species is ready for true contact with the galaxy. What do you mean? Jake stood up and walked to the window of his cell. Princess, your empire is not as powerful as you think it is. There are many species in this galaxy who are far more advanced than the Alterians. That is impossible. We have conquered 17 systems. Yes, but only because those species allowed you to. They were studying you just as we have been studying. You, Princess Lyra stood up quickly. You are lying, am I? Jake turned back to face her. Think about your recent victories. Think about the advanced weapons your empire has found on conquered worlds. Did it never seem strange that primitive species had technology that was better than yours? The princess felt her world shifting. You were saying those weapons were planted there? I am saying that several advanced species have been leaving technology for your people to find. They wanted to see what you would do with it. Would you use it to help others, or just to conquer more worlds? And what did they discover? That the Alterian Empire only knows one way to be strong. You take what you want and destroy what opposes you. You never create anything new or work with others. Princess Lyra sat back down, feeling weak. So you came here to judge us? I came here to see if there was hope for change. I found it. What do you mean? Jake smiled. I found you, Princess. You were curious about different ideas. You listened. 2 new ways of thinking. You showed me that not all Alterians are the same. Before Princess Lyra could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed red, and she could hear soldiers running in the corridors outside. The door to Jake's cell burst open. Commander Rex rushed in with several guards. Your Highness, you must come immediately. We are under attack. Attack? By whom? Unknown ships have appeared around our planet. They demand to speak with the Emperor about the human prisoner. Princess Lyra looked at Jake. Your people? Some of them. Jake said calmly. I was supposed to send a signal if your species was ready for contact. When I did not send the signal, on schedule, they came to find me. How many ships? Commander Rex asked. 50 that we can see, the commander replied. But our sensors cannot detect all of them. Our technology is far beyond ours. Princess Lyra felt panic rising in her chest. Are they going to attack us? That depends, Jake said, on what your father decides to do next. They rushed to the throne room, where Emperor Drax was meeting with his military advisors. Lord Victor stood near the throne, his bioelectric field crackling with anger and fear. The humans people have come for him, Lord Victor was saying. This proves he was a spy sent to weaken us before their invasion. That is not true, Princess Lyra said, as she entered the room with Jake and his guards. Emperor Drax looked at his daughter with tired eyes. Lyra, these ships appeared just hours. After the trial, it cannot be a coincidence. It is not a coincidence, Jake said, but it is not what Lord Victor thinks either. Silence, Lord Victor shouted. You have brought doom upon our empire with your lies and tricks. Father, Princess Lyra said, stepping forward. Let Jake explain. We need to understand what is happening. Emperor Drax looked back and forth between his daughter and his brother. Finally, he nodded to Jake. Speak, Your Majesty. My people are not here to invade. They are here because they were worried about me. I was supposed to contact them 3 days ago to report on my mission. What mission? The Emperor demanded. To determine if the Alterian Empire was ready to join a galactic community of peaceful species. The throne room erupted in angry voices. Several nobles shouted that this was impossible, that the Alterians were the strongest species in the galaxy. Silence. Emperor Drax roared, his bioelectric field flaring brightly. The room became quiet. Continue, he said to Jake. Your Majesty. There are hundreds of intelligent species in this galaxy. Most of them learned long ago that cooperation is more powerful than conquest. They have formed alliances that share knowledge and resources. Together, they have accomplished things that no single species could do alone. And they sent you to judge us. They sent me to see if you were ready to change. To see if you could learn to work with others instead of just conquering them. Lord Victor stepped forward. And what was your judgment, human? Jake looked at Princess Lyra. I believe there is hope. Your species has great potential, but you need to choose a different path. What kind of path? Emperor Drax asked. The path of cooperation, the path of learning from others, the path of using your strength to protect instead of to conquer. Through the great windows of the throne room, they could see the human ships. In orbit around their planet, the vessels were sleek and beautiful, unlike any technology the Alterians had ever seen. Father, Princess Lyra said quietly, what if Jake is right? What if there is a better way to be strong? Emperor Drax stared at the ships for a long time. Finally, he turned back to Jake. If I choose to listen to your people, what happens to you? Our empire. It becomes something better, Jake said. Instead of ruling through fear, you could lead through example. Instead of taking from others, you could create new things together with them. The Emperor looked around the room at his advisors and nobles. Some looked angry and frightened. Others looked curious and hopeful. I need time to think, he said finally. Father, Princess Lyra said, I think Jake has already shown us the answer. How? In the arena yesterday, he turned Brutus's attack into something beautiful. He showed us that strength and creativity could work together. Emperor Drax nodded slowly. Yes, I remember. He stood up from his throne and walked to the great window. The human ships waited patiently in space, neither attacking nor retreating. Jake, the Emperor said without turning around, tell your people that the Alterian Empire is ready to talk.